Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master and welcome once again to my channel, and in this video I'm taking a deeper look into the story of Tales of Berseria. And now I know what you're thinking, Beseria is set in the same universe as Zestiria, and let's face it, Sorey's adventure bored us to death in Zestiria. It was inconsistent with a lot of its lore and timeline, and the characters and the dialogue was just a bore to sit through. Do we really need a prequel to tell us how the little ceremony and ritual of the world needing a shepherd to bring an end to the Lord of Calamity whenever one springs up? Do we really need that? I think not, but we got one anyways. And before you go, we're going to be playing as the first shepherd. He must be some sort of super Sorey from the first game. I'm here to say, no. In this game, you're playing as the Lord of Calamity, and the whole game is about a personal quest for revenge, as the main character Velvet could really care less about saving or destroying the world. She's in it for her own reasons. So the basic plot starts off with Velvet when she's a somewhat small child running for her life as her village gets attacked by demons. Her pregnant older sister, who is the family caretaker, gets killed in the attack. Skip forward a few years and Velvet lives with her brother-in-law Arthur, who works as an exorcist because he can see and communicate with the Molochs, and takes care of her sick brother Laphicet. While times are hard, you can tell she's happy, and the three of them have become a sincere family unit since her sister has passed. Normally, these before the actual story pre-scenes, like what we saw in Kingdom Hearts 2, are boring, and I won't lie, it's kind of the same here. But I became grateful for the setup, so we know what these people's lives were like, and more importantly, who Velvet was before the main game starts. Anyways, one night demons attack her village again, and when she tries to run after Arthur and Laphicet towards an old ruined temple / giant hole in the ground, she arrives in time to see Arthur kill Laphicet. And yes, I need to talk about the censorship in the game. In the original game, Arthur just pulls his sword out and runs Laphicet through. There are videos on YouTube about this, and then he just cold-heartedly slings his body into the pit. Here he undergoes some sort of huge convoluted magic trick, and while it accomplishes the same thing, you can understand why having the person Velvet sees as a father figure kill her younger brother by running him through in front of her eyes would definitely overwhelm her more. Velvet, trying to save Laphicet, jumps in after him, and Arthur just kind of cold-heartedly chops her hand off for doing that. That said, the whole ordeal causes a giant monster to be released from the pit, and Velvet comes flying out afterwards, transformed into a Therion. Now, Therions are demons who eat other demons, and after Velvet feasts on the demons that are attacking her, she realizes that these demons were her friends and fellow villagers. Oops. Arthur then captures her and locks her up in some sort of secret prison for 3 years. Skip 3 years later in Ceres, Arthur's most loyal Moloch turns on him and decides to let Velvet out, saying the Arthur who now goes by the name Artorias has kinda lost his mind, and during their escape, Ceres gets hurt and Velvet decides if she's injured, she would make a great snack. She also manages to pick up 2 hitchhikers, a samurai turned demon named Rokuro and the wannabe witch named Magilu, who help her on her quest for revenge, because they're basically just looking for a way out of prison. Now, I know what you're saying, the whole destroyed village at the beginning of the game thing happens a lot in JRPGs, and it is its most used cliche, but we never see it do anything to the main characters, at least not like this before. Most of the time, it's my home is destroyed, my family got killed, and I'll never see my childhood friends again. Who cares? Let's go kick some evil overlord butt who's responsible. Here in this one, it is the core of the story. Velvet had her happiness and her humanity stolen away from her that night. That big old arm thing she now possesses has come at the cost of robbing her of her senses of taste and just being able to feel in general. She craves revenge against the person she'd blamed for killing her little brother and robbing her of those good times, and she will do anything for that revenge. For example, the first thing she does after escaping from prison is find a way to blow up another mostly innocent village to smithereens, just so she can take a boat and try to get away from some exorcists that are chasing her. Yeah, Velvet's not a hero out to save the world, like I said before, and in fact, the guy she's out to kill is the only one keeping the world together in the first place. And I even like the way they show the way she dresses is part of her personality too. And it's not that she lets a lot of it hang out. It's just how she dressed kind of screams like she's the anti-Sorey from Zestiria. Not only does the outfit show how far she's fallen from the beginning of the game, but that she and Sorey from the last game have nothing in common, as Sorey is a straight lace, nothing missing, nothing unbuttoned. Velvet, on the other hand, wears something tattered to almost look like a shepherd cloak and wear somewhat revealing clothing. So yeah, she is basically anti-Sorey from the last game, and I love it, considering how Sorey was so straight-laced that he was kind of boring. But there's more to her than being angry. She does feel tenderness towards a Malik child she kidnaps and decides to name him after her younger brother Laphicet. And yes, there's a reason for him looking like this, but no, it's not what you're thinking. And she even feels happy at some points in the story when good things are happening around her and to other people. But even when she goes into full Captain Ahab and her whole revenge plot, the other characters in the game story come up and pick up the slack for her. So let's take a look at them as well. Rokuro is the first guy to join the team, and he's actually starts off as pretty simple in his motivations. He's there because he feels indebted to Velvet for breaking him out of jail and helping him find his sword. Although he seems pretty laid back, drunkard most of the time, he's got some really dark stuff going on with him. What turned him into a demon in the first place is his obsession with beating and killing his older brother. Now, did this older brother betray him in some way or do something that makes him a bad guy? The answer is no. He's out to kill him for just simple pride. His brother's better at him as a warrior and he just wants to kill him. And yes, for those watching who have played through the game, I know there are other reasons for it. But even he admits to it, it just goes back to pride. He doesn't care about all the other stuff. Rokuru's is a lot like Magilu, which I'll bring up in a minute. I can't really get into too much about what makes him tick or why he's a demon without going too much into plot spoiler, but just seeing the length he goes still makes him an interesting character. Not to be confused with her brother, this Laphicet is a young Malik that Velvet kidnaps and takes with her. He was born and then quickly subdued by the exorcists, which gives him pretty much no personality or the ability to really think for himself, to the point where he takes everything literally. Velvet decides to give him the name Laphicet to help him establish his own identity, and that he reminds her of her younger brother. And with the help of the other characters, he starts to become curious about the world around him and starts to act like the young boy that he actually is. Again, to see this character start to come in his own and become his own person is kind of remarkable, and the writers deserve praise for this character. And yes, if you're wondering if giving him the name of the younger brother while trying to get him his own personality doesn't cause conflict, oh yes it does. And Velvet's answer to this problem shows that she realizes that they're two different people is simple, but nonetheless a touching one. And if you're thinking also that this guy has anything to do with Velvet's brother, the answer is no. He is an independent Malik, completely born from someone else. So, which I won't get into because that would be plot spoiler. Aizen is probably my favorite character in this game, next to Velvet. And yes, if you're wondering, yes, he is indeed Edna's older brother that got transformed into the dragon in Zestiria. How that actually happened is explained a bit in this game. He basically comes to a point where he knows that the malevolence human spread has actually gotten to him, and it's only a matter of time before he transforms into one. And it also explains why Zavid, who is a pacifist, just wants to kill him so bad in Zestiria. We learn about their backstory here. Anyways, Aizen's non-dragon form is actually a pretty nice guy, a Malik who's second in command of his own pirate ship, who is also looking for its lost captain. Also, Aizen's main beef with the villain Artorias and his exorcist is that the Maliks that fight for him don't do so under their own will. Aizen believes that both humans and Malik must govern their own will, and when he hears Velvet wants to raise a little hell with that group, he decides to join up. That said, he's also self-conscious about what his Malik's blessings bring, which is basically to create bad luck and huge misfortune with whomever he decides to travel with. And it's kind of funny whenever someone tries to cheer him up or try to take his mind off the fact that he is the team's bad luck charm, and just hilarious consequences that can sometimes occur when things go south. You do kind of feel sorry for this guy, as none of the bad luck or misfortune he brings is something he wants to happen, but it does follow him like a lost puppy, and he calls it his Reaper's Curse, and it does prevent him from going back home and seeing his little sister. I'm not going to talk too much about Magilu's backstory because, again, a plot spoiler, other than the fact that she is the annoying, overly perky comic relief that is common in JRPGs, and it's really hard to tell if she's really that interested in the group or if she's actually completely apathetic to their problems. The answer actually comes out as a little bit of both. Again, I won't get into Magilu's backstory or the reasons for her absolutely insane behavior, but I'll let you know they're really good ones, and when you find out her problems, again, you do gain a little bit more respect for this character, more so than you usually do for characters of her type. Eleanor here is the only person in this game that could actually fit in well with Sorey's crew from Beseria, and if you think that this group will ever let her forget about it, think again. Eleanor is originally an exorcist and apprentice to Artorias, but after Laphicet decides to go and absorb a large amount of malevolence and is heading towards becoming a dragon, the pure-hearted Eleanor steps in and decides to help out the group by becoming Laphicet's vessel. And after Velvet whoops her butt in a battle, Eleanor here decides to join up with the group at least long enough to see if she can't sneak Laphicet off and return him to the Abbey where she thinks he belongs. Along the way, though, she finds out that Velvet may be one angry hellion of a demon, but she's that way because her anger is justified and decides to honestly join the group. Eleanor's goody two-shoes approach towards everything clashes with the rest of the cast, but it also keeps them on track and going completely into the deranged villain side. While she may be stereotypical to a lot of Tales character, here, considering just how unhinged this group is, they really do need her as their conscience. Personally, Eleanor was probably the blandest in the game, but she needs to be that way in order to hold this group of misfits together and keep Velvet's rage from getting to her whenever she decides to step over the line. Oh, I guess I shouldn't forget about the one character that I absolutely hated, but granted, he is designed to be that way, I suppose, for the sake of comedy, and that is Bienfu. Now, Bienfu is Magilu's Malik, who decided to run away from her before the game began. Now, I am not hating on Monica Rial. She is a great voice actor and has a lot of anime and video games under her belts, including the likes of Dragon Ball Z and Full Metal Alchemist. But someone told her in this role they wanted her to sound like a cat choking on glass while digging its nails in a chalkboard during its death throes, and that's the voice she provides for this character.
Is he the one who blows on your tears now when you cry?
He most certainly does not. And as of right now, you're a stranger to me.
Yeah, 30 hours listening to this guy, and unfortunately Velvet never eats him, so we never get that satisfaction of seeing him put out of our misery. As far as the team dynamic goes, they don't get along together perfectly like in the other Tales games. They're not friends, but they don't hate each other either, unlike some other JRPG What we get, though, is an interesting group of anti-heroes using each other to achieve their ends and even admitting it to each other. There's tension in the group constantly, but there's no real hatred in the group, even towards Eleanor, who everyone in the group has the right to distrust. She is basically their enemy. While they may not have the same camaraderie that some of the greater Tales games have, like Vesperia and Symphonia, there's still a lot of interesting drama, plenty of comedy, and interesting personality that this group will stick around with me even long after this game is done. As far as the villain goes in Artorias, he's a bit of a weak link, but he still has some interesting sides. He's not evil in the "I want to rule the world." In his viewpoints, he is actually saving it and humanity from the demon blight. But what he really wants to do contradicts with Velvet's way of thinking and values, to the point that even once Velvet learns the full truth about what happens that night and why Arthur really killed her younger brother, and it isn't because he's some unfeeling monster, it increases her resolve to kill him instead of diminishing it, because just to the length that both of them will go to see their vision of the world and their version of the way humanity operates tells her that she still has to proceed forward. Artorias isn't evil, it's just the only cure he says giving the world may be the worse than the disease he's curing it, and Velvet is willing to kill him if it's the only way to make him see that. In the end, I really did enjoy this game's story. It does have some flaws. Mainly, there is way too much dialogue in this one, and there are still some cliches, but it does use them well, and it's just plain entertaining, which is a good thing because there's a lot of it out there with the way this game story operates.